My friend Carlos and I would always go out shoveling people's sidewalks after big snowstorms to make some quick cash. In like 2013 or 2014, our town was in the midst of a blizzard. There was dark, windy, and snow was building up fast. Our school already announced it would be closed due to snow the next day, so with nothing to do that night and it being only like 8 p.m., we went out with our shovels and started ringing doorbells, so offering to shovel sidewalks for cash. We got a lot of no's. Before we got our first yes, we made around $15 each on our first house. We made our way across the neighborhood. A lot of people weren't interested and most people just wouldn't open their doors. We got a second house eventually and made a little more money on that one. Then I remember a long gap between that house and the next house that would say yes. It was a small corner house, but usually corner houses would pay more. Rang the bell and the door cracked open, but whoever was on the other side didn't show their face. They did, however, speak. From the other side, a deep man's voice said, "Who's there?" I pitched our snow shoveling service to the men on the other side, requesting $40 in return. Since it was a corner house, there was a short silence. Then the voice on the other side said, "Oh yes, please, $40 is fine." There was a hint of nervousness in the voice. I said, "All right," and then the door shut. I didn't see the man's face at all. I turned to Carlos and said that was weird. But we started the shoveling. I started from the front porch down the walkway to the driveway. Carlos worked on the sidewalks. I couldn't help but stare at the house every once in a while, and at one point when I turned to a window as I was throwing the snow from my shovel onto the ground, I saw who I assumed to be the homeowner. He was standing at one of the windows, watching me. Could I see anything of his face? Not really. He was standing in a dark room, a little uncomfortable it made me. But I tried my best to ignore it and continue shoveling. Of course, I'd occasionally glanced back and he would still be there. Eventually, I finished the driveway just around the same time Carlos finished the sidewalks, so he started our way back up the walkway to the front stoop. But before getting to the stoop, the door opened and the man inside shouted, "Go around back." Carlos and I froze, looked at each other, then obeyed his command. We stepped through the snow-covered grass to the backyard gate. I opened it and pushed it through the rising snow, which was slightly difficult. Then there we were in the man's backyard, which had a small awning that we stayed under to get out from the falling snow. We waited by the back door expecting him to come outside eventually. With our money, we made it for over a minute and started getting antsy. I started pounding on the back to her, since there didn't seem to be a doorbell, and there was the sound of a window being rotated open, followed by gate. I opened it and pushed it through the rising snow, which was slightly difficult. Then there we were in the man's backyard, which had a small awning that we stayed under to get out from the falling snow. We waited by the back door expecting him to come outside eventually. With our money, we made it for over a minute and started getting antsy. I started pounding on the back to her, since there didn't seem to be a doorbell, and there was the sound of a window being rotated open, followed by the window only by the streetlights standing on the side of the house. I stood at the doorway intending on looking through the crack of the door to see where the guy was standing in the kitchen, but I couldn't see through the crack because it was blocked by him. The man was standing on the other side of the door looking through the crack. I turned and pretended I didn't see him. I made up some bull, like telling Carlos we forgot something outside. We left the house and the man didn't say a word. As soon as we got outside, we grabbed our shovels and sprinted away from there. All of our hard work shoveling that house was for nothing. We got back to my backyard and put the shovels away and went inside to warm up and rest for a little bit. Carlos and I chilled for a little bit, then it was time for him to go. He went out the back to get his shovel. When he came back inside concerned, telling me to come take a look at something. There was an extra fresh set of boot marks in the snow. You may ask how we knew. That's because one set trailed from the gate to the back door to the shed in the corner of our backyard. Carlos hurried back inside and we told my mom we live in a very poor, relatively unsafe neighborhood, so my mom was quick to believe us and get 911 on the phone. Police showed up relatively quickly, considering the horrible driving conditions, and they went to investigate the shed. Carlos, my mom, and I watched through the back window as the police pulled out a man from the shed. He had a matching shirt from what I could see through the window. Back when we were shoveling that property, it was undoubtedly the house owner. He later admitted to police that he was going to attempt to break into the house when we all went to sleep. Why, however, he never answered. Police also said he was very intoxicated when he admitted this, which made me think, what on earth was he going to do to us in that kitchen if we didn't leave his house?